Bedford cabbie a big microphone. And this is what happened.
What the heck am I getting myself into?
Brian's Beat on New Bedford's news talk station, 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back to Brian's Beat. Kim Betancourt is the executive director of the New Bedford Schools Special Education and Student Services Department. She said the number of kids with emotional problems at the elementary level is staggering this year. Then she added, we could look at whether it could be a program within school or we need separate settings. Which basically, she's giving you two choices. But it is, what they want to do, the school department now, because they're playing with other people's money. What they're looking to do is expand programs to help these students with so-called emotional problems. It's also been stated that if the budget allowed, a wish list for expanded services would include an elementary level version of the Trinity Day School, which is a upper school for kids with certain problems. But they're also talking about adding additional adjustment counselors and an additional behavioral support and specialist. What does that all mean? Again, I come back to you about the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Your tax dollars are involved here. Do you want your tax dollars going in this particular direction, or do you see a more of a need for better math teachers, better history teachers? And I don't mean to say that the teachers there are bad. I'm just saying the focus now. Adjustment counselors, all of these special needs. You start these kids off so early. Is there any reason why there may be some type of an emotional problem? How severe is the problem? When you say there is a staggering number, what indeed is that number? 508-996-0500 to get on the program today. Toll free 877-996-1420. The vice chairman of the school committee, I think we need to entertain the idea of expanding those services. He doesn't even know how many kids qualify as staggering, but he's talking about expanding the services. Do you see any kind of problem there? Let's hear what you have to say. Hello.
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Excellent. Yourself?
Very well, sir.
Bring it on.
I've been following this little thing with you for the past couple of days, and when I was going to high school, I had, and not to rank on myself, but I had like a little comprehension thing going on. So they elected to pull me and a group of other kids at the time. They moved us out of one of our classes that we were doing well in, and they put us in this room with a lot of other students that were having this similar problem, and we sat there in that classroom for a period, which is 45 minutes, and we addressed the issues that we were having, in my case trying to understand from what we were reading, and I got through that. Of course, my give-up was I lost my best class that I enjoyed doing, but everything worked out, and it looked like it wasn't costing the school any more money because we were giving up a period that we were normally having anyway.
Well, you're saying it looked like, but who was teaching that class? And really, when you go back to those days, how would you really know what it was costing?
Well, again, it was a teacher that we saw every day. It looked like she was on the staff every day, so it didn't look like she was an additional burden for the taxpayers.
Well,
again, I didn't know that for sure, but I'm just saying this is what we were doing. We didn't really have a lot of extra staff that was being appointed, like committees, to oversee certain issues that kids were having.
Let's go back to the issue. What was resolved by having this teacher teach you?
What was the issue was trying to help us to understand what we were trying to learn in a better fashion.
Reading comprehension, is that what I'm getting at?
That's what it was, sir.
So that's not necessarily an emotional problem. That was a comprehension of education problem.
Right, but it also, we were having issues with students who were, I'm going to say, having issues because they couldn't learn at a pace with other students, and it was causing them concerns at home where the mothers or the parents were coming in and saying, why is my child having an issue trying to learn in this school? And that's why I think they developed this classroom so that we get to the nuts and bolts of why.
All right, and when did you, let's graduate from high school?
71.
So this would have been in the 60s, late 50s that you were going through this
yes,
class?
It was 1965, sir.
1965. Okay. And things worked out for you?
Yes, sir. And I didn't have anything a loss of it. Of course, at the time as a student, you kind of like get aggravated because you are getting pulled out of your best class that you had. But again, that was the offshoot.
And how did you do in that best class that you had because you were spending this other time in another room?
Well, I mean, obviously, when I missed my class, I had additional homework to do. But I didn't suffer from that because I still ended up with a 98 average.
Well, there you go.
So it helped me to understand things, and they got to the focus of what my problem was. But it didn't seem like they had such a big issue back then with addressing these issues, because it seemed like the schools were like, I don't want to say bad, but they seemed like they were more on top of things instead of being so scattered about it.
Well, again, in the 1960s, I'm not sure what that teacher got paid, and there wasn't a Prop 2.5 and all of those other things that have come into the fray. Mm-hmm. So times are different. And I'm not sure that they were trying to sneak in Common Core at that particular time. I appreciate your call, and I'm glad things worked out for you. 508-996-0500. Hello.
Hey, McFadden, if they put in preschool, won't all the kids be bilingual? You have to teach them English first, right?
I know that there are a number of English language learners over there. I think somewhere in the realm of 200. So your question again is?
They're gonna teach them English before they teach them anything.
Or teach the other kids Spanish or Portuguese or whatever.
Isn't that language English yet?
It is. It's not our official language. It is the widely spoken language.
Okay, so you got to teach them English first.
Well, if you bring them in as 5-year-olds, wouldn't that be the same answer?
Yeah, you have to speak English to learn. They're not going to teach them how to do anything in Spanish.
So you bring up a point, and I'm not sure this is what you're saying, but maybe if we go down to this full-day preschool, maybe that should be what it is, an immersion into English.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not for the full day preschool, first of all, but I'm not for this type of an emerging process.
Who's going to pay for all these teachers, special teachers?
All right, where do you live?
In Fairhaven.
Well, you don't have to worry about it too much.
Who the hell do you think is going to pay for it?
I think according to what I'm reading here, it sounds like this is going to be paid for, if the money is there, out of the New Bedford budget.
It's still going to come from the taxpayers.
Sure. I would worry about something similar coming into Fairhaven, because
How if doing in Brockton, where all these people don't speak English there, they must have special classes over there too, right?
I would assume, but yeah. But Brockton doesn't seem to have as many folks speaking.
Please.
Huh?
I think you're wrong there.
Well, I mean, I used to live next to Brockton, and I think you have. What do you mean? How do they do it?
Yeah, what do they do with the preschool kids that can't speak English?
Do they have full day preschool? This is the thing. These schools already have part day preschool. What they're talking about now is full day preschool. At least with half a day of preschool, the kids aren't going to be as quickly labeled, because half the day you're home in a home setting, or maybe you go to another place where you can play tiddlywinks or whatever the case may be. But when you put kids in a regular school setting for a long period of time, and yes, I know they get recess, and that's great. There might be a milk break, but they want to do other things. They're not ready for school, and what you're trying to do here, what the system is trying to do here, is say these kids need to be in school early. This is one of those cradle-to-grave type things. Not trying to talk conspiracy, but the more you have the kids in school, the more money it's going to cost. I understand parents are busy trying to make ends meet. I raised my hand. I was in that category. My former wife was in the same category. We paid for daycare. We paid for preschool. I know folks are going to say, oh, there are other people who can't pay. Then maybe you should stay home, one parent, I'm not trying to pick which one, to help teach your child, instead of putting the burden on everybody. Because once they're in the system, you can't get them out of that system. 508-996-0500. Hello?
Yeah, how you doing today?
Winging.
Hasn't this education, hasn't it cost the taxpayers enough?
Apparently not.
Yeah,
Apparently not, because there's
ridiculous.
A staggering number that need more services.
Well, let the state, who implements all this, pay for it in the federal government. Why should property owners or business owners here in New Bedford have to pick up the slack because the state and the federal government are mandating all these changes to education?
Why should Abington pay for New Bedford? Why should Dartmouth pay for Brockton?
They shouldn't.
See, what's happened here? You bring up a great question, first of all.
Bureaucracy,
okay?
that's what's happened.
Bureaucracy has killed the schools.
Right. Exactly.
And so when we can, basically a lot of this has been taken out of the hands of school committee members. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education puts out their mandate. It goes to the superintendent. It doesn't go to the school committee. It goes to the superintendent.
Do you remember when they mandated the firing, when that foolish Mitchell Chester, guy that wears scarves in the summertime, went the head of the educational system here in Massachusetts? Remember when he mandated, or he advised the mayor and the school committee and the superintendent to fire all the teachers at New Bedford High School and then let them reapply? We still haven't that was 2 years ago, or was it 3? We still haven't filled the positions.
All of them, correct.
Right. I mean, how foolish is this bureaucracy here in the state, this educational system?
Here's the
They
deal. Hold on, man, because this, more important to that, the system actually did it. Thank you for your call. The system really did do that, made the folks reapply. Can you believe that? Hello?
It's unreal. I'm a little late to the party this morning, but from what I did pick up, I just had my 2 cents to add, in that a lot of times people assume that if they pay for care for their children, it's better than if it's not paid for. And that is very wrong. I think what needs to be done is to get back to the basics and to be the kind of America that I remember growing up in, and I'm only 44. And that you had one caretaker for your child in the best of circumstances. And usually it was a family friend or someone of the family. It didn't necessarily have to be someone, quote unquote, educated, because a lot of times...
Means somebody certified.
Right, exactly. And that's what people assume. Certification and education is better than common sense and good old-fashioned values and traditions, and that's wrong. That's wrong. We need to get back to basics. I myself was in the special needs system when it first started out, when they were willing to do whatever it takes. I see today's society as they're more willing to label a child to get more benefits from it financially than they had to help that said child. And that's unfortunate.
I agree.
I remember going to Gomes School, where I was in a class with 3 or 4 other children who had issues, but they were not all like my own. My own particular situation is I have cerebral palsy from birth. It was a birth injury. A factory.